Hello and welcome to another deck tech for Opus 16. I wanted to try something a little different this time in that I'm using just FF Decks as a website to show off this deck here. Let me know what you think of this format at the end of it, whether do you have a preference between this and showing the physical cards? It does take some extra time to sleeve up the cards and get the camera set up upstairs so that I can record those. And on one hand, I don't really want to abandon that because I really like the feel of the physical cards and I like setting them out. At the same time, especially like in the case of this deck, I don't have a lot of these cards, so I thought, well, instead of having to use a lot of proxies for stuff, I'll just show it on here, and then I get to use my normal microphone, whereas upstairs I have to use my camera microphone, which isn't quite as clear. So anyway, just let me know what you think at the end of it, whether you like this style, whether you'd rather see the old style, whether you don't care. It's, you're indifferent as long as you get to see the deck, and that's all that matters. But anyway, let me know. So we got some new cards in Opus 16. Cecil here being one of the primary ones that I was really excited about, and I really wanted to build a Category 4 deck around it. And I tried a few different versions that maybe I'll include those lists in this video. First, I tried Mono Wind, right? Because you've got this Cecil, who obviously is a wind card, can play anything for free. You've got Theodore, he wants to see some Cat 4 characters. You've got Hooded Man. So you've got a bunch of stuff that's already in Category 4. And in particular, if you have these three out with a Bismarck, you have some pretty silly plays where, when you go to attack phase, Theodore is going to reactivate all your Category 4 forwards. So you can use Bismarck, dull all three of them. You can dull Edge as well if you've got him out there. So you do all these Bismarck pings, Theodore reactivates them, then you can attack with all of them as much as you want. And then at the end of the turn, Hooded Man will reactivate them all again, ready to either defend or use on a Bismarck ping on their turn. Very silly, very fun. I did enjoy that one quite a bit. However, it did feel a little lacking in that. So one of their biggest things I think they struggled with was power, was that, Cecil's is only an 8,000 power forward. Same with Theodore, same with Hooded Man, he's just 7. And when people would put these bigger bodies down, I actually kind of struggled to get over them a little bit. So originally I thought, well, what if I put something like Aerith in, right? So we'll delve into Earth, we'll do Earth, Wind, Category 4, then I can get access to things like Rydia. And that was fun too, and that worked. My biggest issue with that is, Rydia is such a cool card and such a card that I want to invest in summon-wise. And I just wasn't really sure which summons I wanted to be playing there. And in particular, well, let's be honest, I wanted to play Amaterasu, right? Casting Amaterasu for free off of Rydia is one of the strongest things you can do. So I said, okay, let me try a 3-color version, which is what we have here. We have Wind, Earth, and Fire. And this is the version I have enjoyed the most. I find it very fun. It gives you a lot of lines and ideas and things you can do once it gets going. However, I'm going to put the biggest caveat about this up front. And it could be I have really awful luck. There are times I have bricked so hard using this deck. I will open, not only will I just open 5 forwards in hand, this is after a mulligan, so, I open forwards and summons, mulligan, still don't see a single backup. I will have different colored ones, so I'll have, a Terra and a Hooded Man and a Sasano. All these forwards I don't want to drop turn 1, and that the color-wise, too, really screws me over where, I've only got 1 Fire, so I can't even cast the Terra, or I've only got 1 Earth, I can't cast the Rydia, or whatever it is. So there are a few times I've bricked really badly, but as long as you see some backups, especially if you see something like more Stalin, or then you can search out something else, you'll be fine. So anyway, let's delve right into it. I guess I'll talk about the Cat 4 stuff first, since that was really the main idea. Cecil, of course, is our main cause for that. Cecil, when he enters the field, you get to play any character of cost 4 or less from your hand onto the field. If it happens to be Category 4, you get to reactivate 2 backups. So we have 21 Category 4 characters in here. We've got Cecil himself, Theodore, Hooded Man, Rydia, Edge, as well as Rubiconte. And I don't think we have any on the back. We have Rose on the backup line. So she's the one for that. You could put in, is her name Luca? Is that the engineer's name? Luca. Or no, is it just 1 C? Luca, yeah. So you could throw in Luca. I don't know how often you would use that effect, but she would just there if you wanted another Cat 4 character. I found this does have plenty. And again, with the Cecil especially, you're not really going for the reactivation. The reactivation is a sweet bonus if you can. Probably one of my favorite plays is to go, if let's say I'm on 3 backups or more, you know, Cecil, pitch whatever, bring down Cecil into Hooded Man, get back whatever I want from the break zone, and get 2 backups back. That feels excellent. But sometimes I've slammed out Cecil turn 1. There was one turn I opened with Nordstalin and Cecil, and I've done this twice, and one time I got punished for it. One time my opponent had Amaterasu in hand. They just killed it, totally punished me for it. Another time, they didn't. So I was able to just pitch 3 cards, put down Cecil. Cecil gets Nordstalin. Nordstalin searches out whatever I want from my FFC cards. You'll have to make that judgment whether you want to take that greedy play or you could be patient, put down Nordstalin first, then try to go Cecil on the follow-up play. But I love this card a lot, and then afterwards he's going to protect your entire board. It will take 2 extra CP to, if they want to target anything on your board, doesn't matter if it's Cat 4, just any one of your backups, any one of your forwards. It is an effect that is both more overwhelming than I thought and a little less underwhelming. Sometimes people will say, yeah, it's fine, I'll gladly pay 2. And the thing is, I don't think you really realize what that does to them over the course of the game. Like if you look at it within the confines of a single turn, oh, you know, I did this effect, I cast this summon that's going to break Cecil, and I just pitched a card from hand to pay the tax, no big deal, he's dead. And within the bounds of that turn, maybe that doesn't seem like much. It only costs them 2. But if they have to choose multiple times, or you're slowly draining cards out of their hand because of that, it's very brutal. And in particular, one of my favorite just game-breaking things to do is, let's say someone has a forward enters the field that, you know, breaks Cecil on entry. Let's say it's Merrill from Soirees or something like that. And then they have to target Cecil, and so you say, okay, are you going to pay the tax? They say yes. Then after that, after they've paid the 2 from hand, you hit them with the Amaterasu, completely cancel it. Now they've just thrown a card out of their hand just for nothing, you know, for absolutely nothing. So I think Cecil is very powerful in here, and he does really well with his 4 partners. If you don't know how Cecil and Edge works, so Edge will always, the first time he takes damage during a turn from a summon or ability, it will automatically become 0. That's the first time, so he'll survive a Sasano board wipe if he hasn't been hit prior. And then you can choose one summon or ability that is only choosing 1 win forward you control. It has to now target Edge if possible. There's no limit to that. You can do that multiple times a turn. And if Cecil is on the field at the same time, for some reason, and I don't know why it works this way, according to, you know, our Twitter rulings, it actually counts as a second choosing. So there will be 2 Cecil attacks on that. So again, let's say you try to hit Cecil with whatever effect, a Chokamog, I don't know. And then you can redirect it to Edge. Cecil will tax the first time for choosing him, and then Edge will tax it an additional time. So they'll have to pay a total of 4 CP if they want that to go through to hit Edge. Pretty darn silly. Hooded Man is a card I've always thought was very good, and you know, it just wanted great force stuff to play with. But I thought he was fun since he came out in Opus 11. It's a bit of a shame you can't try to use a Cane in here because of it, but that's okay. On a burst, you can get back any 4 forward in your break zone, which is quite nice. And I really had overlooked when this card first came out, but the ability to activate all your 4 forwards at the end of the turn is huge. I have won several games simply by having an early Hooded Man and Theodore or Cecil, even just Edge, and party attacking. You constantly party attack in Hooded Man and Edge. You know, generally they don't want to block. It's not usually beneficial to block parties if you can't do some shenanigans on top of it. And then you get your low point of damage in, and then he stands them back up so they're ready for defense, or again, they're ready if there's no Bismarck in this deck, but in those other decks, you could use it for the Bismarck ping. I really love that. Theodore is our new one who we've gotten to play around with, and he is interesting. He's one of these cards that at times I wish I had 3 copies, and there are other times I wish I only ran 1. So currently I settled on 2. So when he enters the field, you may dull 3 active Category 4 characters you control, and when you do so, you choose a character of cost 4 or more, and you break it. Incredibly strong in the right instance. He counts himself, so you only need 2 other characters. If you've got the Rosa backup, you can use that as well. It doesn't just have to be forwards. So I've had Rosa before with Theodore, Cecil, you know, have Cecil play Theodore. Now you've got your 3. You can just dull them, boom, break a character of 4 or more. And then at the beginning of the attack phase, he will activate all the 4 forwards you control. I don't find that as relevant in this deck. Again, it was really nice in the mono win version because of Bismarck, because you could stack that with the pings. Here, it is good if you're going against, let's say, an ice deck, because I've had ice decks where they'll still freeze Hooded Man on their turn because that at least gives them a phase or a turn without having to deal with him or any of your 4 characters. But then Theodore will just stand those right back up. Again, not super relevant here, but very good if you are happen to be going against an ice deck. The thing about his entry effect, it really just depends on the type of deck you're facing. I have faced very cheap decks before, like Palom and Porum, or something that's just running a lot of small, not only forwards, but backups, that he actually doesn't have a target. I've brought him in many a times, and he doesn't have a 4-cost character to break. In particular, you need to be careful with this, because if you happen to be in one of those matchups, you have to choose a character of 4 cost. So if they don't have one, you have to pick one of your own. Now, obviously, in that situation, you're not forced to dull the 3-4 characters, so you can just ignore that part. But just be warned, if you dull your 3-4 characters and they don't have a 4-cost character, you'll have to break one of your own. So don't do that. But in other instances, he's been pretty game breaking. I was going against an Earth Wind once, who had down 2 wind backups and a Tyro, and Tyro was their only Earth CP. So to bring in Theodore, break that Tyro, and just deny them of that CP really screwed them over. So he's great when he does his thing. Again, sometimes he doesn't feel as good. However, it is kind of nice to have an 8,000 body, because Hooded Man's smaller and Edge is smaller. So there's Theodore. Touch on the Rosa backup. This is just here because of the category and because it's a 2-cost. On occasion, I will use the effect. In particular, the most common way I will use the effect is to save Cecil from Amaterasu. Amaterasu is Cecil's biggest enemy. It'll not only kill him on entry, anytime you target something, the Cecil tax goes on the stack, and then you just Amaterasu it and you just kill him. So Rosa being able to dull herself to keep Cecil alive through Amaterasu is huge. So that's the main thing I use it for as far as the action ability, but for the most part, she's just there for the name and the cost. Rydia is our another 4 character. Surely you know this card if you've been playing since Opus 15. She won't take any damage from summons or abilities by your opponent. And then anytime a Category 4 character enters the field, you get 2 growth counters placed on her. And then once per turn, your turn and your opponent's turn, you can cast the summon for free as long as its cost is equal to or less than the number of growth counters on her. It's very easy to get her up, again, with all the 4 people we have in this deck. And we'll look at our summons real quick. So we have Mist Dragon, Amaterasu, and Fenrir. So the most you need to get on her, if you want to be able to hit everything for free, is 6. Once you're at 6, you're good. There's, I experimented with a deck that goes like an 8 and 10, but it's just, the more you try to do that, the more unreliable it becomes. Whereas here, it's very reliable. So Amaterasu and Mist Dragon are both huge. Getting Rydia to 4 counters, which means she always gives herself 2 enchanters, so you really only need 1 more 4 character to enter after that. It's pretty easy to do in this deck. Again, casting Amaterasu for free on their turn feels great, as is Mist Dragon. You can cancel their Amaterasu, you can dump their break zone at the key time, whatever you need to do with these. And Fenrir I like a lot as well. Now, again, somewhat similar to Theodore, he's a bit situational, right? He's got 4 effects, but are they always going to have a light or dark forward? Probably not. Back up a 4 more, like Theodore. Sometimes, yes, and he's game breaking. Other times, not so much. But monsters have become more popular. I've used it to break an Atomos before. I remember one time I cast Fenrir, broke the Atomos, and I brought back Aerith from the break zone because I had to discard her early. She didn't die through combat. And then suddenly, now in combat, not only did they lose the monster and Aerith is back, now my other forwards are bumped. Or, break the monster, break your backup, bring back Arden for a quick in-combat trick, bring back Rydia, bring back Aerith. Those are his targets. Arden is really just in here for color fixing because he can be discarded for fire or earth CP. And then, again, you can technically do it as a Fenrir cheat to surprise. Everyone has first strike and 1,000 power. That is quite nice. But, so yes, I've really been happy with these 3 summons. You could throw something in like an Alexander and win, but again, you're breaking a character of 4 more, which you already have Theodore and Fenrir to do that on the backup line, so that one I didn't feel was as necessary. But if you want, you can try to put in things like Diabolos for Rydia. Bolos. You know, this one's cheaper. You could try to do the 5 costs. I'm sure that'd feel really good to cast for free, but these 2 summons in particular are so crucial to the metagame right now. I felt like I couldn't ignore them, and overall, I've liked the way that Fenrir has felt as well. All right, let's see, we've got Edge. Rubiconte, 1, he's here because, again, I'm trying to somewhat balance the colors so he fills out fire, but 2, he is a 4 character, so I have, at times, Rydia put out Rubiconte, now she's up to her 4 counters, and at damage 3, you know, he's going to take something out with him in combat, or even out of combat. If they just kill him and they don't, like, reduce his power, he's going to nuke something for his power on the way out, which is also really nice if you have Aerith on the field, that it buffs him to 10,000, so he's a 10,000 blocker who then is going to hit something else for 10 on the way. I really like the way he's felt in this deck, especially with Rydia. Speaking of Aerith, since I've just touched on her, she is very crucial to this deck. I wasn't very high on this card when I first read it. The more I've played with it, the more I've loved it. Again, in particular, just to counter things like Amaterasu. If Aerith is on the field and Cecil comes down, he's automatically 10k. So they can Amaterasu him, they can stop your free play, which is still probably worth it, but they're not going to kill him. So then he'll get his continued value. Same with Theodore, same with Hooded Man. And like I said with the mono win version, I was finding it really difficult to push over when my opponent would put down 9k bodies, because no one in here naturally has that power level other than this one Y'shtola. So Aerith is very big in those regards. And then, of course, you've got her re-raise counters, where if she dies, she'll just come back 3 turns later. That's never been... I'll just quote Steve D here, where he said, you know, that's never been relevant in the sense of I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh villain and ha ha ha, I planned it perfectly so that 3 turns from now my Aerith will return and you've activated my, you know, special beam cannon in my spellbinding circle. Nothing like that. But it's still nice. There was one time I was really behind and I just ran Aerith into my opponent to try to get damage. They blocked her, which I was grateful for. So not only did I get to do the re-raise, I then followed up with Shantoto to just clean their board. So I found Aerith to be hugely relevant. I would highly, if you feel putting a 3rd copy in, I don't think that would be a bad thing, because I think she's just that good and just that useful. 2 copies of Zidane, still one of the best cards in the game. I was practicing this the other night. The last match I tested this with before I've made this deck tech, I ended up winning the game largely because I legit just did a Zidane Althea loop. Just every turn would, you know, send Zidane in. They would, of course, block him because he figured out what I was doing eventually. Scoop him back to my hand with Althea, replay him. And he was in top deck mode already. He'd kind of pitch it. So at this point, I'm just hampering his resources that much more. Again, this is a card you could easily bump up to 3. Y'shtola, again, I really like dual elements in my 3-color decks because the more color fixing, the better. And trust me, it kind of hurts my heart that I've only got 1 Y'shtola and 1 Arden as, like, quote-unquote color fixers, as far as, like, a card you can pitch from hand to discard for either element. Because, like I said, you can brick hard sometimes, so it's nice to... Oh man, I've got Norstalin, but I have no other win CP to pitch. Okay, I've got Y'shtola, at least I can throw that out early. However, similar in that same match, Y'shtola she's still just quite the beater. She's haste, she can go in immediately, they can't ping her off, they're going to have to hit her with a full 9,000 to get rid of her, and then she can't be blocked by 4 more, which again can be relevant if people are playing some of these bigger cards, you know, Bismarck and Locke, and oh, I thought I would have a blocker, and surprisingly now I don't. So I've really enjoyed her as one of. You could do the 3 CP Wind Y'shtola as well, just for more protection, but I found Cecil and Mist Dragon and Amaterasu pretty much cover that. Terra is a card I just love more and more, mainly because Amaterasu is so powerful. So she's just in here on a burst. You can get back Amaterasu. There isn't really a whole lot of pinging you'll be doing with her effect, but it's fine. You just want something that can recur one of your summons on an EX burst. And then finally, talking about our forwards, 2 copies of Sasano. This combined with these 2 Shantotos is just a way to help you reset the board. You want to take your time to set up with this deck. This is not a deck that does very well going aggro. You know, you want to get your backups. You want to be able to play your stuff efficiently. And so if someone's slamming stuff in your face, you want to have Sasano just come out and help clear the board away. Shantoto is, of course, also nice because she's color fixing, so then you can use her to tap for any of these colors. Same with Tyro. He color fixes for you, and he can get out whatever key forward you want. Usually, I will get Cecil, unless I've, of course, already got one in my hand. There's been some turns where, wow, a Theodore here would be so backbreaking if I can get him. you know, Susano would be really good. So I don't think there's ever a key forward that this is the one you go get. You'll just have to feel it out, test it, see which one you like to get the most off of Tyro. 3 copies of Nordstallen. We've got 1 copy of Althea that it can search out. It can also search out this Lilty, which will reveal Ice or Wind. There's no Ice in here, so you'll just grab a Wind card off of that. You can also get this Lilty if you just want a cheaper way to get Fire CP on your backup line. And then you can also get Lael, which is just, again, a way to get a cheap Earth backup out. Chaos is here just for color fixing. There's no dark. You could easily swap this out for Cosmos if there's a light forward you wouldn't want to run, or, you know, if you want to put a Kadaj in here or some kind of dark forward to go with him, that's fine, but it was just another cheap way to color fix. Same with this Class 8th Moogle. You get 2 colors out of a single 2 CP win backup. I'm very fond of that, especially with the Rosa. And yeah, that covers the backups. So sometimes, again, when I get in these tricolors, sometimes I wonder if I go too much on the color fixing, but at least the way I play and the way I design, I'm trying to overcome for when I have bad draws, right? Of course, if you open with Chaos and the Moogle and Tyro and Nordstallen, you know, oh, well, I don't have to worry about anything. It just works. And that's easy. However, for the games when maybe it's not going so good, oh, if I see Chaos turn 1, at least now I know I can cast any of these 3 colors that I need to. So I've found this to work pretty well. If you're really worried about like an Althea getting hit into early damage, you could always put a second one in, but I've found Nordstallen grabbing the single one has been very effective. So this is the idea of the deck. You know, you want to get Rydia out there, obviously, to get your counters up so you can start casting this stuff for free. Aerith will help everyone just push over. And again, Hooded Man being able to party with the other 4 characters to just keep chipping away but keep your defenses up is quite huge. I've really enjoyed this. 4 is a top 10 Final Fantasy for me. I don't remember where I put it on my list, but you know, it's very fun to be able to use these characters. A couple little tech choices. I have seen some people run the forward Rosa, and I did try that for a while. In this particular version of the deck, there's not a whole lot to get your cast count up. There's not a whole lot of reactivation. I'm not running things like Chocobo, which Chocobo is a good summon. That's something you could absolutely throw in here. I was trying to think of stuff that more, you know, Rydia would want to cast, but what's nice about the Chocobo summon is Rydia can cast this off herself. So if Rydia just comes in, boom, you're ready to hit this Chocobo summon. So you could do that to save your Cecil, reuse your Seadore, you know, whatever you want to do. So you could throw Chocobo in there if you would like to, but I've been pretty satisfied with the selection that I have. So yeah, there you go. It's a really fun deck. It's got a nice mix of both theme, and it's very potent. It feels strong because, again, you've got a lot of answers and variety and things. Yeah, I felt like it can deal with most of the situations I've come up against. There haven't been many decks that I thought, wow, I just can't even handle this. To me, the biggest flaw in it is that I'll just brick sometimes really badly, have a terrible opening hand, and then, you know, and unfortunately it's almost just game over there unless your opponent also has a bad start and you can recover well. Anyway, so this is Category 4 deck, Tricolor. Let me know what you think, if you enjoy it. Also, again, feel free to tell me if you like this style of video, if you'd rather see the other one, if you're indifferent, whatever it is. Hope you have a great day, and as always, take care.